Welcome to nurseand.com for the next book in the series. Book 5 is Defenders of the Weak. We're going to get started. Book 1 is The Mental Files, Sheep Among Wolves by Nurse Anne. Book 2 is Dr. John Doe. Book 3 is A Tent Under the Bridge. And book 4 is the trilogy edition. The newest book out is book 5, Defenders of the Weak, that we're going to get into now. And of course, book 6 is also out, which is the complete series in one. Book 6 is the Mental Files Series Collection Edition. But I'm going to jump right in and let you know about book 5. And I'm Nurse Anne, certified emergency and mental health registered nurse for 28 years and still going. And I've created this inside look, this fictional drama series to let you know how the frontline workers, can they rescue those in crisis of mental, physical, and spiritual? And what role does God play in the outcome? The shifts are 24/7. Buckle up for the compelling ride. We're going to jump into book 5, Defenders of the Weak now. Right along on the continuing drama series as the frontline workers attempt to rescue those in crisis, mental, physical, and spiritual. Can Chandra break out of her paralyzing fear and anxiety, stop allowing the bullies to take over her existence, and place her in danger? Will she be able to help the stranger with a similar struggle? Or will the opposition take them both down? Will the frontline workers' project to help the less fortunate be thwarted by the community and church members who don't want their comfort disturbed? Is the opposition willing to place others in danger to keep their status quo? Strongholds to be broken, a God who is able. The shifts are 24/7. Buckle up for the bumpy ride. And of course, this is a work of fiction. Names, characters, and incidents are all products of the author's imagination and used for fictional purposes. Yada, yada, you know the rest. This series is available on Amazon. It's The Mental Files by Nurse Anne. We're going to get into book 5 now, chapter 1. Why am I so different? Chandra was shivering as she ran in the drizzle. Where was she going to go? It was getting late, and her heart was already full of fear without compounding it with cold and darkness. She wanted to go back to her warm dorm room, but then she would have to face the hatred and taunting from the trolls who had singled her out online. Not to mention the popular sorority girls that whispered and giggled whenever she walked past them after class. Why did I ever think I could start a blog page? I just wanted to share my poems. I thought maybe someone might connect with them and feel some relief. This life is too much to take. I wish I wasn't so useless. I just want to help people not to feel so much pain and rejection, she thought. She reasoned to herself that if she could ease the pain of someone else from the kind of terrors she faced, that maybe her messed up life would have some type of meaning. Sliding down to the curb, she started to sob uncontrollably. I should have known not to put my ugly face on my bio picture, she cried to herself. Between her shivering and sobs, she didn't even notice the patrol car stopped next to her. Officer Leon had been dispatched after a 911 call from her concerned roommate. Chandra had forgotten that she had left her computer open with the hateful words directed towards her still on the screen. And the poem she had written was so dark, so ominous. Her roommate, Tanya, was a little freaked out. Tanya was used to her roommate being quiet most of the time. She also wondered why Chandra preferred to isolate in her room instead of hang out on campus. What was Chandra always doing on her laptop? Well, now she had some insight, but it was not looking like good news for her introverted dorm mate. Leon had stopped to pick up his new fiancée for the mission. The officer knew from experience that the compassionate and experienced mobile crisis caseworker would know just what to say to a runaway young lady. He had witnessed firsthand her expertise in calming presence on their previous search and rescue missions. Driving in the rain near the campus, the team wondered if they would ever find the missing person. Her roommate had reported that Chandra had missed 2 of her morning classes and had left the dorm room unexpectedly without her coat, keys, or phone. Even though Chandra was a little weird, she was either quiet and withdrawn or having anxiety attacks and going to the hospital. Tanya still didn't want anything bad to happen to her roommate. "Leon, pull over," Lita gasped. "There's a girl right there crying. She's soaked." Following the directive from the love of his heart, Leon parked next to the girl that looked to be in her early 20s. Grabbing a blanket from his trunk, he wrapped it over the girl's shoulders while Lita sat down and tried to elicit her story. "I don't think I can face the haters anymore. I'm tired of trying to fit in. No matter how hard I try, the ridicule is incessant," wept the weary college girl. After listening to her story and offering reassurance, the kind caseworker was finally able to convince the girl to let them take her back to her dorm. As Leon opened the door for Chandra to get in the car, her blanket became caught on the door. That's when he noticed the blood-stained blanket and fresh cuts on Chandra's arm. Seeing the concern in her soon-to-be husband's eyes, Lita looked down at what Chandra was now trying to hide. While Leon stepped away to call for an ambulance, Lita sat with the injured girl in the back seat. Not wanting to interrupt Lita's attempts to connect with Chandra and encourage the young lady to get help, Leon stood a few feet away to wait for EMS. Chapter 2. Paramedics to the Rescue. As the paramedic duo of Mars and his experienced partner Maria arrived on the scene, Chandra could hear the rumbling of the truck and see the flashing lights as they approached. "No, please don't take me to the ER," begged the young lady in the back seat. Chandra remembered all the times she had been to the ER for her overwhelming anxiety and self-inflicted wounds. She hated to go there. The last thing she wanted to deal with now were crowded waiting rooms with people staring at her, or nurses looking down on her with judgment, and psychiatrists telling her she would have to go to the hospital again. Her sobs escalated into rapid breathing as Chandra worked herself up to a full-blown panic state. Trying to offer some comfort, the caseworker sat closer to the young lady and offered her the blanket again. "Ouch!" exclaimed the patient as the prickly blanket brushed against the fresh cut on her arm. By this time, Maria had made her way over with saline and soft bandages to dress Chandra's wounds. While the ladies took care of Chandra, paramedic Mars stood outside typing the report from Leon onto his tablet so he could give a report to the emergency room. Chandra noticed that the kind paramedic Maria looked familiar. She vaguely remembered that the lady dressing her cuts was one of the nice ones. Comforted by the presence of the caretakers, Chandra finally agreed that they could take her to the hospital. Before the EMS team drove off, Leon asked the two if they were still coming on Saturday to help work on the housing project for the homeless, with the rest of the young adult ministry team. "I have the day off," replied Mars, "so I will definitely be there. Hopefully Maria will still be able to come. I'll ask her after we drop off the patient." As he drove to the hospital, Mars recalled how thankful he was to have Leon as his mentor, especially since the officer had recently saved him from going down the wrong path, a career in crime and danger. Not to mention, Leon was the best male role model he'd ever had. Really the only positive male figure in his life. The young man was also feeling grateful that his life was now on an upward trajectory. He was finally making something good out of his life. The prayers of his mother, Jenna, were finally coming to fruition. Mars wanted to make everyone proud. Chapter 3. Honest Revelations. While the officer drove his new fiancée home, he thought about how blessed he was that she actually said yes to his recent proposal. Energized by the direction that his life was headed, gave him more incentive to continue with his one-to-one counseling sessions at the church. He felt motivated to get to the heart of why he had certain thought patterns and habits that had never really allowed him to open up his life with someone so special. He was learning so much about himself. He was excited that the two of them would attend the premarital couples counseling sessions together soon. Leah could tell something was on his mind, so she gave him a playful nudge and asked, "Hey, future husband, what are you so deep in thought about?" The newly engaged caseworker was so relieved that she didn't have to worry so much anymore when Leon was deep in thought. Instead of thinking the worst, she had recently learned that the reason he'd been so quiet and mysterious before was he was actually planning to ask for her hand in marriage. And to think she almost gave up on him because she had misread his anxious mood swings. Her heart soared even higher when Leon began to tell her about the counseling and how his life was changing for the better. "Tell me more," she asked with intense interest. "Okay, well, you asked for it. Here goes," he started. Leon proceeded to hash out the details of some of the conversations and soul-searching he had been undertaking with a counselor at church. He had been able to uncover some of the reasons why he had not been able to have close and meaningful relationships with the women he had dated. Most of the examples in his life of how to treat women from his male role models and everything he witnessed in culture around him had only reinforced negative examples. He was beginning to see women in a whole new light. No more objectification, no more using women. Leon was actually starting to want to advocate and be a champion to help so many of the ladies going through struggles that he encountered in his line of work. Lita was feeling strong emotions as she listened intently to every word. She added her observations on the traumatic life situations she witnessed in the lives of her clients. She had encountered many women and young girls being abused and mistreated in general. And that's going to be your intro to the book Defenders of the Weak. Come right along with the frontline workers. Be an advocate. When you see someone looking discouraged, listen to them. Give them eye contact. Spend some time. Help encourage others. People are going through so much. And you can get this book series on Amazon. It's The Mental Files by Nurse Ann. And that is Ann with an E. Book 1 is Sheep Among Wolves. Book 2 is Dr. John Doe. Book 3 is the Trilogy Edition. Book 4... Book 3 is A Tent Under the Bridge. How could I forget that? Book 4 is the Trilogy Edition. Book 5 is the Defenders of the Weak, which we just introed. And then Book 6 is the Mental Files Series Collection Edition, and you can get all the books in one. So I hope you enjoy that, and I will post the next intro. And you could also enjoy the nurseann.com podcast, where I read in audiobook versions of the chapters, and then we're going to break it down, tear it apart, see how it relates to your life and others' lives, how you can get some answers and some biblical prescriptions and wisdom from Scripture to help us guide us on our life journey, to live our best life, and to help encourage others. So see you over at nurseann.com for more inspirational wellness and creative entertainment with a purpose.